Come on, guys, please. Good afternoon to you all. I hope you had a scrumptious lunch. My name is Emmanuel Awori, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this. But sometimes I actually don't know who I am. When I travel to Kenya, I'm called a Ugandan. When I'm in Uganda, I'm called a Kenyan. See, in the 1800s, an elephant hunter was killed while setting a trap for one. And the culture at the time was that his window was supposed to be inherited by his brother. So ladies, you can imagine, if your husband died today, and then you have to go and settle with your brother-in-law. Just imagine how that would feel. But being a 7-foot giant of a woman, strong-willed, this was not acceptable. She said she'd make herself an outcast. Outcast she became. Went with her only child to her mother's house. This only child later gave her 17 grandchildren, 2 of whom would go to dominate East African politics. One of them ran for president here in Uganda in 2001. 2 years later, the other was made a vice president in Kenya. From a banished woman to making history. I happen to be the grandson of the presidential candidate and a Liberian lady called Dr. Thelma Awori. The presidential candidate, by the way, is Honorable Aggrey Awori. May his soul rest in peace. In Swahili, they call this mchanganyiko. It's a real mix. You've had Liberia, you've had Kenya, you've had Uganda. So you can tell why I question and why sometimes I really don't know who I am. You see, I've always had an identity crisis, and identity politics is something that my family and I have always had to contend with. For clarity's sake, identity politics is the politics of race, of religion, of gender, and all other things related. But in this particular case, I'm talking about nationality and ethnicity. It makes me cringe whenever anyone plays that card. Identity politics. You Ugandan, you Kenyan, you Rwandan, you Tanzanian, you South African, whatever it is. And my grandfather, who had told me, by the way, never to enter politics. Interesting advice from a politician. He told me never to enter politics. We faced a similar dilemma. In 2001, where he stood for president, he was asked, identify your grandfather's grave. To be a president in Uganda, the law states, you must be born in Uganda, right? The politics at the time were that if you can't identify where your grandfather was buried, you don't belong here. Plain and simple. 15 years later, I ran for guild president at Makerere University Business School. A scarred totally my grandfather's advice. He looked at me and was like, what did I tell you? And I'm like, I just put it. I faced a similar dilemma because during one of our campaigns, and it was actually the final rally of that campaign, I was asked, and first they say, we cannot vote a Kenyan. A Kenyan cannot be our guild president, never. It can never happen. And they tasked me, if you're Ugandan, you put your national ID here on the ground. My competitors put their national IDs on the ground. I did have mine. I did handball. But I said, look, when I got to play this card, this was the final eye of the campaign. We are much more than I'm Ugandan, I'm Kenyan. We're in an institution where we are all students. We are all African. So I played it completely differently. And I guess this is what won us the election at the end of the day. We played it into the card of, look, we're all Africans here. We all have tuition paid, by the way, international students, which I think is a term we should ditch for fellow African students. Rambo was not so lucky. He didn't win. I did. And with that, I had the opportunity to do something that he had always aimed to do. That was use his story to unite East Africans and Africans alike. I mean, his own wife was from Liberia, right? All the way from West Africa. So he's not the kind who could play into identity politics. During our time in office, we strived and stayed true to our word to create opportunities for all students, Ugandan, Kenyan, whatever, wherever you were from, whatever origin you had. And to this day, it still plays out, even when you go back to the university. So do I still question who I am? Yeah, I do, almost every day. Accent changes. Sometimes I sound more Ugandan, sometimes I sound more Kenyan, sometimes I really don't understand myself. And do I question where I belong? Yes, I do. But at the end of the day, I consider myself to be an African. This is who I've chosen to be. I've chosen to be an African. Yes, Ugandan, Kenyan, Tanzanian, Rwandan, whatever. As I said, mchanganyiko in the beginning, but I choose to be an African. And even as I pursue this journey of leadership, of trying to integrate, to get people to collaborate, to partner together, that's been my life's work. It was part of my manifesto, running for the guild. I realized that even standing on this stage today, my speech has changed quite a bit. This was not what I said yesterday, and all my classmates must be shocked, right? This is not what I said yesterday. But I realized that there was something deeper in what I was trying to bring out yesterday, and this is it. We are much more than this identity politics that we play. So I try to tell you today, please, come walk this journey with me. Let's come together as Africans. Right? We're that generation that's going to challenge all the narratives and stereotypes, all the borders that were drawn for us on these maps that we study. We're going to challenge that. The generations that are going to come after us are going to appreciate that effort. Today, you could be a Musogda getting married to a Nyankole, you could be an Acholi getting married to a Nsanya. God knows. You know, your wife could be from, I don't know, Egypt, right? And we're already doing this through our intermarriages. So let's free ourselves from the shackles of these boundaries, of these stereotypes, but most of all from identity politics. Let's free ourselves from those shackles. We are the ones to make that change. I am the one. I made this decision 8 years ago. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it will all be worth it in the end. Asanteni sana, shukran, urakoze, wewe rinyo.